Okay, so we have established the case length of our cases in the last video. There's some numbers on there, which if you watch the other video, they'll make some sense. These cases are all different lengths. And I decided, number one, I'm not going to tighten this down and Headspace it because I still want to work in it right here. So I kind of bracketed the headspace. Remember, this is the thing that when it's all said and done, a loaded round has to headspace on the case mouth against the end of the chamber. And in that regard, I single point cut this chamber, reached in, hooked over, out. That's not how I did it. I cut in and out, in and popped out. But the point is, the steps in this chamber, the shouldering step is not vertical. I put a chamfer on it, but I decided in the end to go ahead when I finalized this chamber, I ran straight in. So the case mouth on this guy is 90 degrees square. Because I realized that there's no chance I'm ever going to grow a case and jam and get the normal problems that I have with gap space. So I'm running the gap space here at 0 for head spacing. In fact, it's a crush fit. And I'm just leaving that alone. If I have to trim off a thou or two on the deal, that's fine. But I'm not going to worry about it. So now, square cut chamber. And now I have to put, obviously I can't run a bullet into these square cut. They're just raggedy, nasty. So I'm coming to now I'm at the next step where I'm going to cut some, cut a freebore into this thing. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm just going to drive a freebore into this, and here's where the actual machinists in the world are going to blow a gasket, and you know what? I don't give a rat's ass about anybody's opinion but my own anymore. Because I find that most people that whine and grunt and cry about tolerance wouldn't know tolerance from their aforesaid posterior. So, looking at this, I've got a nicely fitted bush to go down into the barrel. Same bush that I used for chambering. Doesn't matter. I've got a set of these bushes. These are 50 BMG bushings. And this one happens to be a .494 if I remember right. This bushing fits in here. This is what's called a necking reamer. This is a great big one, so I'm kind of holding it here so you can see it. So all of you that don't know this, this is only for cutting a freebore and throat. I called it a necking reamer. Can't remember what PTG calls it. Unithroater, sorry. 50 cal unithroater. And it comes with this nicely fitted sliding sleeve on it. And I have a tendency when I'm using unithroaters to make custom sleeves that perfectly fit my chamber. I do the tapers and I do everything so that I get as good alignment as I can back here and up here. This throating portion, because this is set up for 50 BMGs, has got such a spread on it that it's almost the size of a normal cartridge case. Here's a 308 cartridge case for comparison. This is just the throating reamer. Now the throating reamer on a 308 is clear down at this size. I've got boxes of those too. There are people, pros, winning pros, who disagree strongly with this concept of going in later and cutting a freebore, cutting the lands, cutting a neck area. But you know what? I've learned that there's many ways to skin a cat, and in the end it's results that count. And I know that the appropriate way of checking results is to go in and look at what you've cut, find out what happened. So we're going to do that. We're going to start by, I'm just going to chow a freebore into this thing. It's going to be, I've got so much room I need to remove. I need to get a close to a ½ inch freebore in the end probably. And so what I've done to align the back, see all these little tabs of tape? I can throw them away now. I wanted to show them to you. This is how you properly fit if you're a high-end spec grade machinist. This is how you properly fit the reamer. You wrap tape around it and then you rip off, progressively you rip off pieces of tape till it'll fit in the hole. Alright? This is high grade stuff right here. That's meant to be a joke. It's not dry, it's just silly. but it's kind of an in-your-face to all the people. I've decided that now, since this is my channel, I can do what I want. I don't care if people listen or not. I'm concerned with results. I've been hand cutting chambers for 10 years and people just wig out. You know what? I've got a DRO on my lathe. I've got the various stops. They're not even remotely as close as I am by hand. I can make 15 identical chambers that you can just swap brass back and forth on. So I don't want to hear about it. Results are the only thing I care about. So we'll see what kind of results we get with this guy. Now I have to find the high-grade driving unit. Stick that bad boy in there. And we be crank. This is some high tolerance cranking right here. We be running tolerance. I got a nice piece of all thread here. I got some screws locked up on here so that I can drive this. I got this tape down here guiding the rear. The only thing accurate on this is the PTG bush that's down in the bottom and the front. And I just grind this. I'm watching the tape go down going, yeah, I'm cutting away here. This thing cuts fast. I'd be cutting me a nice big old FREEBORE in here. So there's my FREEBORE. And I pull it out. And I've removed a bunch. Those of you who know what to look for, if I turn right, might be able to see. Yeah, I done did cut me some FREEBORE in there. By hand. So now we have to go in and find out if we did a good job or not. This is always about checking to see what kind of good job a person did. This is called back checking the work. Now we go in here, clean out all that crap, because I'd be putting a high dollar $50 TESLONG in here. I certainly wouldn't want to be getting grease on that lens. I don't mean that facetiously at all. Don't put grease on the lens, people. This is clean. Oh, does that look nice down in there? That is fantastic. But here's where the rubber meets the road. Here's where the proof meets the pudding. I need to turn this thing on. We're going to go in there with, got our TESLONG kind of set up here. And I'm thinking, I was going to go in, it's so weird going in from this direction, and it's all set up for going in the correct way. So I'm going to lay this down. This again is our chambered up barrel, rock and roll. This end has got Remington 700 threads on it so that I can just thread I can thread an action on here. I had to thread something on here to make it long enough to go through the tailstock, because I go in through the tailstock and I time this thing rotationally. I have it pointed where I want it, and I find that to be important. And this little chunk of steel is too short to do that legally, so I had to build myself an extension, and I just built it like a Remington 700 because I've got piles and piles of Remington 700 stuff laying around. So now we get this little guy down. I gotta get the camera on. Let's see what I can do here so that you can see what I'm looking at. Okay, so I'm going to go slow down here so that you can see the bore as I go in. This is a brand new, this is just showing you what the inside of a hand-lapped, high dollar, custom 50 BMG. This is a 7.5 inch twist barrel. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. It's almost a one-off, I think, but I couldn't swear to that. Maybe this guy makes more 7.5s. Here we come to the salient points, to the part that we care about. There is the end of the chamber, and it's got chunkies and this and that on it. As I back up, see, there's the beginning of a rifling land right there, and we go up and there's the cut at the top of the rifling land. This is what everybody tells me you gotta go look at. Find out if it's nice and square and parallel, and if they all, you know what? Mine tend to tail out pretty much exactly on the friggin' nugget, thank you very much. So there's the FREEBORE from the end of that land to right here. I'm going to say, because I've got a finely calibrated eye, that right now this case, or this chambering job that I just did, has about 62 thousandths of freebore. I'm going to roll this. The light gets a little bad in here. Here's the thing. This TESLONG's got a very short focal length, and anybody who knows about cameras knows why that is. Therefore, let's see here if I can get to another point. It's just flopping around in there. This is a 50 caliber bore. It's like throwing a insert joke here. Let's see. I'm rotating. I think we saw what we needed already from up front. There's the top of a land. That one's not as straight, but whether that's me or whether that's the shape of the land, I get all kinds of shapes up there. What I'm concerned about is that I get a clean cut all the way around. But with this thing flopping in there the way it is, the bore is 50, and the tube that the camera that I've got in there is about 0.2. It's small enough to fit a 22 bore, so I can only get certain areas to come into focus. So I'll go, there's a couple of lands and grooves right there. You can see the cut across there. And I think we've established what we need, which is that we've got a good cut on the lands and grooves. Because I've got a couple of other things I want to show all y'all. I don't want to stop with this being the end all and the be all. I'll run out of time if I'm not careful. So what we have accomplished now, what we have done, sorry, but I gotta set, I value, even though this is particular one is only a $50 piece of kit, still, I don't want to get the screen all buggered up. So now the Fart Blossom project has moved to where I have a chamber cut in it, which happens to headspace nicely on one of these cases. I don't remember which one. And it does bottom right out. I mean, I did a crush fit, I did a mild crush fit and a hard crush fit. And I just now cut a throat in using this throating reamer, which, as I said, it comes with a finely machined sleeve, but as thin as this sleeve is, it still won't fit into this particular chamber, because this chamber is like minuscule. Nobody's ever done anything like this before. So I did wrap the tape around here for alignment. I got alignment, and do the math, people. I've got a 1/10 of a thou down here. I've got a lot of these bushings, and I found one that fit perfectly. The distance from here to here is long enough that, let's say it is off a piece of tape, the thickness of a piece of tape. Let's just say it's crooked in there because my tape is slobbered on, and this right here has an extra layer, or doesn't, because I went down, I took the pieces off so that they stack. Anyway, it's pretty round, but it doesn't matter. We're so far back here that, let's say I did cock this thing, I couldn't feel it on the bush, and all that's going to do is cut the rear of my throat, what, a 1/10 of a 1/10 off? So this is why I say, please, just do the math. Number one, it's a freaking prototype. And number two, I went in and looked at it. It looks fine. So we're still in the development stage. I'm not saying that this is a replacement for having a reamer. I'm sure if I get into these, I will get an appropriate reamer. But I don't know if FREEBORE. I just took I set this thing such that I have to turn a light skim on the cases just to get them to go into the chamber. I'm going to go kind of a little bit more over here and maybe bring this up a little bit closer so that you can see what I'm doing. All I did was took this one and turned it so that it goes in there. Man, I just have too much light on this subject here. This light, and I'm sorry, I should have stopped and pre-programmed this, but it's getting to the end of my work day today. And I cut this down so that it does go in smoothly. There's no interference. It headspaces nicely on this end edge right here. So this, well, this dummy doesn't, because this is one of the 404 Jeffrey cases that I cut way back. I'm just reusing it. So now I've got this adjustable bullet in here, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to set up 3 or 4 tri-bullets. I think I'm going to just start shooting with this headspace, because these bullets have got a long rake back on them. The 750s and the 800s aren't going to need much. I mean, they come back so far that I don't mind having that much of the bullet in the case. I think that leaves enough room for powder. And if not, I'll go ahead and start moving them out. We have a method now for moving that headspace, so we can do that on a short notice. And I just have to say this, people. I must. These guys freaked me out today. I mentioned in the last episode, which was filmed 2.5 days ago, that I was going to, I had emailed Cutting Edge Bullets because they build these 1002 grainers on the fly. They don't keep them in stock because nobody wants them, because most people aren't as stupid as I'm. So I ordered up. Hopefully these suckers shoot, because I got some cutting edge bullets. Those of you that care can go find out. You know, I have, I just bought a couple of boxes, but I gotta brag on them a little bit, because whether they shoot or whether they don't shoot, when I called and the lady said, well, we don't stock them, when the order comes in and is paid for, we'll build them. That can be a trap. That can be, that kind of could mean it might be a month before I get my bullets. So I was grunting and whining just a little bit on the last video, and I retract every grunt and every whine, because this, my friends, is freaking donkulous. Number one, they burn these bad boys out in a day. They must have got my email, walked right down to the shop. So they made them. I got a couple boxes of them. These boxes, by the way, I ain't gonna pick that one up. These bad boys are, well, they're 1,000 grains a piece, and there's 50 of them in there. There's some poundage in that box. But I'm waiting for the big reveal. The reveal on here is so cool. I showed you on the last videos how these, let me get this set up quickly. These cases will just swallow a 308 case in its entirety. Gone. And the 308 case is ubiquitous. Everybody knows what a 308 case is. Now here's where it gets really goofy. There's our 308 case for 308 case for scale. That's a bullet. I said redonkulous, and I stand by it. What a freaking monster that is. So, the next rest of the evening, and maybe on into, I'm going to have to decide where I want to seat these big guys, because this is 1,000 grains. It's going to take a little bit of powder. I might have to seat these way out there. So I might have to run a FREEBORE. I think I said early in the video something about a 1/2 inch long. I'm not, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that. But I have to make all these different bullets fit. And it's just, I am so excited. These 1,000 grainers came in fast. They're here. And the real question in my mind this day is, am I going to have to make a designated FREEBORE just to shoot those monsters? And the answer is, I got no freaking idea. But that is a lump of copper. I say copper. Looks like copper. I don't know. Copper jacket of bullet. That's a bullet. That's a bullet. One more time. 308 case. 1,002 grain cutting edge bullet. Wicked freaking cool. So now we have at the beginning of a free bore. It looks to me like I'm going to have to go burn it down another long ways to get it to work. That's neither here nor there. That's easy peasy. We have the tools to do that right here. And if it's too much of a heartache, I'll go spin her up in the lathe and go after it for rizzle. But for right now, I had to share that with you. I had to show you the absolute, give the visual impact of these guys right here. 1,000 grains. That should pretty much break a leg on the biggest deer that you've ever seen. Thanks for watching, guys.